resuming reporting. Welcome everyone to the gift of retainment, a discussion on the best practices for your student retention. So let's get started with what is the excuse that you hear most? There is no, like, just unmute yourself. There's no rhyme or reason. We're very just open today. You can certainly put something in chat if you like as well, but just unmute yourself.
Has anybody else? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Mine ranges from I don't have a babysitter to they call me in to work. I just started a new job and you know what? They changed my schedule.
Changed my schedule. Work issues. I remember hearing that a lot whenever I was in the literacy world. Sheila, did you have a thought?
Well, one of the things that I note that it seems to be, I really think it's called the power of negative attraction. They get themselves scared and then all of a sudden the world falls down on them. They break, their car breaks, they have an accident, they get really sick. So somebody in their family gets really sick, somebody dies, their dog gets hit by, just if it's bad, it happens to these people. And it happens like bam, 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 bam. It just doesn't stop. And it seems to be really those students that are afraid that if they are successful, they're actually going to have to change their life. And so it's like they put it on themselves. And I've seen this so much over the last 19 years. It's crazy. I can almost even tell you who it's going to happen to when I meet them. Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody else has experienced that, but that is something and also their car always breaks down and they're always out of gas. That's another one of those excuses that they have. Or
we had a student that said, "Oh, I had to get my hair cut."
Oh, well, that was a good one.
So, but saying, as Sheila's saying, life happens, and it does seem to happen. Lots of life happens, and then I think some self-sabotaging happened with them too.
Yeah, and
I had one guy that killed his whole family. Everybody, every week, somebody was gone.
I'm like going, what?
I'm like, what?
Start repeating. And I'm like, didn't you tell me grandma died last week?
Yeah.
So you're having to start keep track of which death he's reported.
Right.
I do remember a student whenever I was in the literacy world where I did keep track of everything because I could never believe anything they said. And I wrote down like more than once that a grandmother passed away. And so, I got to thinking, okay, if their both parents were remarried and they could have, da, 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 da. And so it's like, it wasn't until like the 6th or 7th grandparent that I was like, okay, so how many times has grandma passed away? And how many grandmas do you have exactly? And they were like, what do you mean? I only have 2 grandmas. And I'm like, really? Well, that grandma's passed away 6 times. She's miraculous.
And they don't like it when you call them on like that. They really get very defensive if you call them on lying to you. They know which excuses get them out. And so they and sometimes I'm just like, if you don't want to be here, you don't want to be here. There's nothing I can do to make you want to be here. So
it's not just the childcare issues. It's not just transportation issues. It's family emergencies and working. And so it's not necessarily issues that we always can do something about. But how can we help them manage priorities where they're held accountable for making those choices of choosing that over that? Thoughts?
Well, I was looking up online on retention, And I was thinking what I do now, what I do in my classroom works for my classroom because it's the way, I mean, I don't have a lot of problems with retention once they actually walk through my doors. The problem is that people will call to get on to come to orientation, and then about 50% of those actually show up for orientation. That's where I don't know how do we deal with that number?
What is going on?
That's the rule now, right? That if they even ask a question, we have to put them on our list. And so
not quite.
So what, and that's what they said. They said if they called, we have to put them down.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not exactly, I mean, yes, they say that out loud, but yeah, we know that it's not exactly the best thing to do, for sure.
I mean, I think some people call to find out what is this going to take, and then they go, well, I'm just not there yet, you know, and then and I think that should be okay. You should be able to make that decision.
Yeah, forcing them into
I now know what it's going to expect of me. That's not on my plate right now. Maybe it will be on my plate in a year, 6 months, but at least I now know. And I don't think that should count against them or against us personally.
It does not. Do we owe, I mean, we're getting off a sidetrack here, but it leads to something, I mean, very, very important. I think Sheila's pointing to. WIOA says that, and Jerry Hafner's on here, correct me, some language that a person, an eligible person who does several things like this and that and this, and one of them is provide demographic information, becomes a reportable individual, a participant, registered, in other words. The thing is, it's the word and, not or. So one of those things I know is provides demographic information and calls for information and does something, I can't remember what it is, but it's and. So if they just do one, to me, that's not a reportable individual. If they call and are shopping around for us versus this program versus this thing, they have not done those things that make them a reportable individual.
Right.
But I know where Matt was going on that during the meeting, because there are some programs that do not report anybody until they get enrolled. So he's trying to, I understand it. He's trying to, I'm sure, pull those programs back in line. Okay, if we don't do that, we're in violation of the law. Okay, it's not a criminal code. All right, there are no WIOA police. All right, but I understand what he was trying to do. But anyway, what it points to is, I think, an important ingredient, I think, in retention is all the steps that lead up to becoming registered and enrolled, from, you know, the person who talks to them on the phone, is an accessible website that collects that information. Are they clear on what they're supposed to do next? Are we clear on telling them what they need to do next? Do we have is there some type of orientation in which they learn what they have to do to be successful in the program? And I think that's a fair thing to do. Help them start brainstorming. What happens this? What happens if that? If you go to IU or Purdue or any college work, they have a comprehensive orientation program on what you're supposed to do if, and what joining us means. So that's all, we should be doing that also, not just signing papers and that's it. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, good, thank you.
There's no apologies necessary, Rob. All good points. And happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You want us to sing to you?
Yes, I want a chorus here. How many we got here?
No, you don't.
Happy birthday.
Well,
thank you.
I mean, Rob brought up a very important, a nice phrase that I like. So what are the important ingredients to retention? Whenever you've asked the students that, whenever you ask them, why do you stay around? Why are you willing to finish? Why are you willing to give this your all? Why are you willing to, keep plugging on? What is their answer?
I would say it comes down to caring about them, caring about their issues, and helping them resolve through them, you know, build that relationship. I think you have to build a relationship, and it doesn't have to be a best friend relationship by all means, but that relationship piece is what's going to keep them coming and engaged to come and wanting to come back.
I would like to piggyback on that.
Absolutely.
I'd like to piggyback on that. That's a great point. You know, we talk about barriers that students have. When I taught in corrections, they had no choice but to come to class. So they couldn't use the choice of, oh, my mom is sick, or they had to come or else they would get written up. So therefore it was very difficult sometimes to keep them, even in that situation, to keep them focused. And they would still try to use those excuses like, you know, I can't do this. However, you hit the nail on the head. I think when you have a great relationship and they know that you care about them and that you are concerned about them, you might be that one person in their corner in their whole entire life who has ever wanted to be there for them. And they see that, and they're going to try to, make you proud and to do it for you. So, you know, even in the regular classroom where they do have all these barriers, I still think that that's number one, establishing that relationship with those students. Definitely.
That is honestly a key to so many things, is building a relationship that matters. And it doesn't necessarily have to be your best friend relationship. It just means the relationship has to matter. Showing concern and showing that you are there for them to answer the questions that they need and to give them the help they need to get through with what they want to do, what their choices are.
And I think too, communication is key, not just within the classroom, but outside the classroom. Obviously, I couldn't do that in the prison, but, just maintaining that, like I'm teaching an ESL class at the library right now. And I had a couple of ESL students that fell off for a couple of days, and I kept in contact with them. And the one response that sticks out in my mind as to what one student said was, "Oh, teacher, I missed one class. I have no right to come back." And I said, "Oh, yes, you do." I said, "It's okay if you missed one or two classes. It's okay." And they said, "Oh, we won't get in trouble." And I said, "No." I said, "This is where you are an adult. We're going to treat you like an adult." But it's just still maintaining that relationship, and that sense of communication, I think, is key.
Absolutely. Whenever you're talking about, as Kim has put in chat, giving them a clear path to success, communication of what that success look like has to be laid out for them. They have to know how long it's going to take. What I remember Kevin Hunter saying that he always got the question of, how long is this going to take? Mm-hmm. Anybody remember that?
They asked that question, yes.
All the time. And he had a formula figured out. Do you remember that? Yep, Rob does. Do you remember it enough to talk about it, Rob?
He had figured out something related with the TABE scores, and he did a spreadsheet based on the students he worked with. We have this TABE score, this is how long it takes, and like in hours or days or something like that. So at the intake process, he then told students, based on your TABE scores, this is how long it'll take. Okay. And so if they missed, he adjusted the formula. Okay, now it'll take this long. Okay. And now this is your end date. And missed again. Now this is your end date. How long do you want to keep pushing this down the road? It was really ingenious. I mean, Sheila kind of has a similar thing kind of in her head. She's got that figured out in her head, and Kevin had an Excel spreadsheet that put an end date right at the get-go.
That really makes them understand what the choices that they make are going to have an impact on their success. And therefore, go ahead.
Could you share that formula?
I'll see if I can. I used to have it somewhere.
Just to talk about it, so it doesn't have to necessarily follow that one verbatim, but to be able to talk and say, this is an idea to, like you just said, Rob, how long do you want to keep pushing out? Well, it should take you roughly about this much time, give or take. And then, but, kind of that message. I love the idea of giving the teachers that to be able to use and say, because it's valid.
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask,
Yeah.
I'm putting it in my notes. How long will it take? Or I'll reach out to Kevin and see maybe if he'd like to come back and talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Be great.
The problem is that what I do works for the task test, but that changes in 2 months. So now I got to figure out a new, what does it work for the new test? Because if they have a score of, I always tell them that I need their TABE score to be a 530 or higher to be able to pass this test. And that does work actually really, really well. So if they come in at a 530 or higher, they're like the boot campers. They're the ones you can do in 12 hours. If they come in the 500s or higher, that generally takes 4 to 6 weeks. And if they're, about every 20 points down, you add about another 4 to 6 weeks. So you can, and then if they have multiple subjects, if it's math and reading subjects, then that doubles because you can only learn one at a time. So their brains just don't do both at the same time. So you raise one, then you raise the other. So if you need to raise both, that's going to be 12 weeks. And it's kind of, and I said, and that can be shortened by how much time you put into it. And so I find kind of talking about that go, so what I'm looking at, and do you want a morning test or an evening test? And then they tell me, and I get the calendar out, and I'm like, I'm thinking we should shoot for this date. And I put that on their folder and on the calendar. And I said, this is the date we're going for. If they miss, I push that date. I'm like, well, we're probably going to have to go to next month if you just need the night test. And I make them push them. If they don't like that, that generally keeps them coming. And I just let them know I don't kick anybody out. It just, I can't guarantee a time if they don't come.
Does anybody have an outline or something that they provide to the students on that path of what their path to success looks like, their end goal?
I don't, but I would love to see one if somebody does.
I mean, I'm thinking of, I used to have a student that he had a lot of trouble with not doing the stuff he was supposed to do at home and not realizing that each time he chose not to study, then he was that farther away. So I made him keep a journal and a timeline of his own process. And this is when he wanted to finish. And he had to jot down each time he spent an hour, spent 15 minutes on something he worked on in order to meet his goal. And then he got to see that he wasn't making that commitment each week, and it was no fault of ours that he wasn't doing that. It was, he wasn't making that effort. He wasn't making those little tick marks, and it helped to some degree, but he was special. And so he had his own struggles as far as being able to get there. Not sure that he couldn't do it, but I wasn't 100% sure that he was either, because of his TABE scores. So
I think that's great. Those are those executive functioning skills that they don't know how to do very well, and making them be responsible for writing it down instead of us being responsible for writing it down, I think is a great idea.
I think the more that you give the students the responsibility to keep track of their success and to keeping a journal of what they want to succeed upon, and maybe writing their own steps. What do they think it's going to take? And then you're the one that helps guide them through, well, if you think it's going to take 10 hours a day, is that realistic? Because I had a student one time say they thought it would take them 10 hours a day studying. Okay, well, there's 24 hours in a day. You sleep 8 of them. Let's do the math. And then once they got, you work another 8 hours, so then they started doing the math and going, oh, okay, wait a minute, I can invest 10 hours a day. Exactly. How much time can you invest? And them making those connections and those, them actually doing that themselves, I think makes all the difference in the world. Any other thoughts on giving students a clear path to success?
I think you need to talk. It has to come from the heart. First of all, you build that partnership And part of their orientation is once my people talk to them, then I come in and talk. And I get that same question, how long will it take? And well, how much time do you have for me? How long do you think it's going to take? That's one of the questions I ask them. And sometimes they really don't have an answer. I had one young lady, and I am so proud of her. She probably needs to be one of my success stories. She came for the last 3 years, and each year she would drop out. And I'd go knock on her door because she doesn't live far from, I'd pass by the house and say, haven't seen her. I go knock on the door, bring her back. Well, this graduation, she just got her RN. So she went the whole gamut. She kept saying, I can't do this. I can't do this. And I said, oh, yes, you can. And you're going to. When the day she got ready to take the test, she came up with an excuse. And I don't remember saying this, but some of you on the call know me. So I said, come here, little girl, you're going to take this test today and you're going to do well. And of course, we were on the radio, our WJLB local radio station, and she was the person that I took, and she told them on the radio that I threatened her to take the test. So, but it worked. She took it, and she is now an RN. She said, and when you come to the hospital, I'm going to work on you. I'm thinking, I don't know about that. We'll see what happens. But sometimes you just have to push them and let them know, as you said, they have to set their own parameters, and they have to set their own. It has to be in their heart and that mind what they want to do. Some of them, of course, don't know. When they walk in that door, they don't have the slightest idea, but you keep talking to them and working with them, and you can come up, as the one young lady said, building that relationship. And sometimes they're not always peachy, but it works.
I think back of our sharing success stories with where students shared their success stories, and whenever it comes to listening to our peers and those that have done it, I know personally that I do that. If I'm looking at one of my peers and I'm like, oh, well, they accomplished that, why can't I? I think that happens a lot in our adult learners worlds. Am I wrong or right? Kim is shaking her head. Yes, she believes yes. Yeah. I think that if we utilize students to tell their success stories more, perhaps that was part of your orientation, is a student that just got it done to come in and say, hey, well, my story basically is this. I had all of these barriers and I set a goal that I was going to do it in this amount of time. And I didn't quite make it in that amount of time. I went a little over, or hey, I got it done earlier than that. And I'm so proud of the fact that I've got my degree and now I'm doing this. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be anything professional or crazy. It just has to be a part of your orientation, a success story. And if you can't get it to do live, maybe a recording, or maybe reading some of the ones that you have written in the past, including them as part of the orientation. Does everybody have a success story in their orientation? Just curious.
When we were doing orientations in person before the pandemic, we had a former student come.
Okay.
The whole time. He just really loved doing that.
Or if they took the test and the test scores came in, they were still in class, I would make it a point to run down to that class and let everybody know that this person passed, and let them talk about what it took for them to pass. That's always a good feeling.
I think that's part of the building relationship and the communication that we are really talked about from the very beginning. It's so apparent in just about everything. Is you build that relationship by sharing others' experiences. You build that relationship by making sure that everyone has a chance to share their success story and to share what what their plan is. And then the communication of all that kind of falls hand in hand.
I had a wild idea that I wanted to get what you all think of it. You know, when you're in a hospital and a baby is born, and you hear over the speaker, you know, the music. Yeah, you know, the baby is born. I thought, wouldn't it be fun to, when someone gets their HSC, to have something that comes over, and so it becomes a recognizable tone or something that's saying, "Oh, just got a graduate." Does that sound kind of corny?
No, I like it. I love it.
Actually, I have an account in Kentucky where the teachers have a special bell in the hallway. And when certain students get, you know, when they get the results or test results, they get to ring that bell. And I guess during COVID, they were so disappointed that they were not able to physically ring that bell. So the teacher hooked up on Zoom some type of a bell, and all the students logged on, and the student was able to kind of like do a bell. So it's kind of a sense of notoriety and like, hey, I did it, and then a sense of accomplishment. So yeah, there's nothing corny at all about that whatsoever.
I think it's a great. Yeah, I think that's building a relationship with, you know, sharing your success with others.
I was going to say about success stories. One good thing about that is when you tell your students that, and because sometimes they just feel like I'm the only one that has these barriers, or I'm the only one that can't do this. But, you know, you can say Joey, but not really say their name, you know, just always use Joey in my classroom because I know no Joey. And, but I think it makes them motivated. It makes them believe that they can, and it feels good to help them with the success story, so they hear everybody else.
Knowing that you're not alone is definitely a huge component of building a relationship, and sharing with each other that you are not alone can make you feel that you're not alone. You know, whenever someone shares that, hey, I've been through this also, then I think that is so important. So let's do the Big O tone across the whole state of Indiana. Let's get that going everywhere. Let's see here. I go back, make sure I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, we had a bell ringing ceremony, or bell ring thing when I was the director of a smaller program in Southern Indiana. That was kind of neat. Yeah, just right out there and put the name on the board, ring the bell.
That's cool. Maybe when they pick up their diplomas, that we could do something like that, since I don't come in mass usually to do that. Also, since we really are doing things differently with the whole, like how people register and how people orient now, doing it a little more separate, maybe having some of our students not just write a success story, but maybe film a success story, and then we could share those recordings of their success story. So they're like the guest visitor that comes, they're part of that initial video. Just a thought.
How could IAACE help with that? If we had a standard date that was on the calendar, whether it be monthly or weekly, however often, that you could have a student log in and just share a success story or share what they've accomplished, and we could use bits and pieces. Yay, nay, crazy? Would it be possible?
That sounds kind of cool. You know, they could have an appointment to tell their story, and then we could get it recorded that way. That's a good idea.
Don't the PDs already do that? Collect those success stories and share them? I mean, they don't get shared with the rest of us. So is that what you're talking about?
Well, they collect them by paper, but they don't generally collect them by video, I don't think.
I think that's part of it, but IAACE doesn't always have access to all that. Right. And I mean, honestly, I would love to have a portion of our website where it was nothing more than sharing success stories, where we could actually utilize that to market programs. Mm-hmm. And because them hearing from you know, other students and people that have done it, I think is so important from their peers. So we can look into that further. There was something in chat. Let me see here.
Yeah, Lauren had a good one.
Oh yeah. Actually, I have a copy of Lauren's success story book, and it is awesome. And also the thing that I remember about that is her sharing some staff success stories, which, you know, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that, or if Lauren wants to chime in a little bit. I know she's traveling or something. She hasn't, so she was just planning on listening in because of some other restrictions that she had. So she may not be able to chime in, but one of her teachers had kind of a success story in regards to coming from a home where her father didn't read, and she was the first one to graduate college in her family. So I know that was part of it. And I remember that well because she actually worked for me at the Literacy Center before I left there. So that's one of the reasons why it probably stuck to me as well, because of that connection. Okay. How many of you follow up whenever a student misses?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I think that is definitely a great point as far as building a relationship with them and making sure that they understand that you care enough to know that they weren't there, and follow up that, you know, what happened? Why weren't you here? And not, well, you didn't show up, you know. So it's also all about the way you do it. Anybody have a successful way of how they follow up?
I've always used Remind, but I'm not really in love with it. In fact, I was just looking up stuff on Google Voice today to switch over, because the people in Remind actually have to join Remind too. And if they don't want to join or they hit the button wrong, they never get your messages. But I've been known to follow up if they're 10 minutes late. I'll send them a quick message going, are you okay? I'm making sure you're okay. You're not here yet. Makes them feel really guilty, and they usually call right back.
That Remind, Sheila, the Remind thing. I usually do that when I orient them. I make sure that they sign up right there, and that I send them a message while we're sitting with each other, so they actually can sign up, so I know they have it. They don't have to download the app.
I know that.
It comes through their messaging, but I just make sure that I sign them up. They type in their phone number for me, and I just put it in there, and then we already have a conversation going, and all right, this is how you can contact me. This is how I'll contact you.
And I do that too, but then they have the option every single time they get a message to opt out. And a lot of them
they can say no. They can say reply no, and then
and if they do, once you do it once, you can't. Only way they'll get back in is if they come in. You know, you have to.
Right.
They have to, like, anyway.
They have to say yes again. They have to say yes to an invitation.
And it's annoying because it just, I like it I want everybody in one location so I can send a group message to everybody, and I don't have to remember who's on Messenger on Facebook, who do I actually still send texts to, who's on my, you know, because I used to text every single person before they joined my class and just welcoming them and can't wait to meet you and ask any questions. So I always have them in my phone, but then I don't want that to be our way. So I move them to Remind when they join class. So then I end up going back to the texting, and now I have like half of Bloomington in my phone. So I'm going to use Google Voice this year and see how it goes, because then it's still in my phone, but they don't know my number. So, and that's not that I even mind that they know my number, but I mean, I have one young lady who texts me, calls me, daily, just to tell me I'm her best buddy, I think. So.
And finding the balance of the relationship of where you don't let them in on the fact that you aren't best friends, but is there anybody that finds success in any social media avenue, like a Facebook group or TikTok or Instagram? Anybody use anything odd like that for retaining students? Not necessarily odd, but
I use Facebook Messenger because usually some of our students, they get their phones disconnected or out of minutes and stuff like that. I find a lot of, so I'm not friends with them, but you can always send them an instant message, even on Facebook, not being friends. So I do utilize that.
I have a school Facebook page. It says Sheila Butler-teacher. So they can be friends with me there. And I don't have to have them be friends on my personal page.
I think that's important with the separation, just for so many reasons. But, you know, we used to have the policy at the Literacy Center that, you know, there was no accepting friendships on social media, and it was inviting them to join a group instead. You know, we'll invite you to join the group, and you can be a part of the group and see what we post and that sort of thing. So building a relationship that way in order to keep our private lives private. We all do enjoy privacy, do we not?
I have one of the teachers here is using a new thing called class tag, and she likes it a lot. It just seems a little, I have class tag and remind on my phone, and since remind seems to work fine for me, I don't bother with the other thing. I tried it, but you know, they're different, a little different. The same idea that you were looking at, Sheila, being able to text everybody at the same time and have a shield around you a little bit, so.
Thanks, I'll try that one. I'll look at it. I don't want to get myself into, I have the habit of getting too many things going. And that's what takes all the time, is when you're just jumping from thing to thing to thing.
And that's the one great thing about the networking in the IAACE is if you guys have had success with something and you want to share that little, you know, okay, I've done everything I need to do on Remind and I like it because, or I don't, and these are the, you know, the pros and cons list. I would love to see some of those things come out of this as well, as how to share information in regards to that. So who would like to share something that just really, you did not expect it to work whenever it come to a student sticking around, but boy, whenever you did, boom, they were there and they finished.
I provided food.
Feed them. We did have a candy bar / chips box, and we sometimes it was whenever they were given a certain challenge, but then other times it was like we gave them a goal. Next time, get to class 5 minutes early so that you can get yourself ready, go to the restroom, get your drink, and be ready to go at class time instead of walking in 5 minutes late and still needing to go in the restroom. And if you do, then you can go pick something from the snack box. So that's a great idea.
Yeah. Well, when I taught at the Learning Center, there were a lot of students who really didn't get food. I mean, honestly, they had their own food stamps but you know, a lot of young kids that mom and dad just did not provide meals and they were kind of left on their own. And so, not that I was there to provide food all the time, but when I did, it was a big deal. And so we would, and then local business, I got to be really good friends with the owner of Pizza Hut because I taught his daughter in a former class when I taught special ed. And he started giving me vouchers for pizzas. And so I was able to get pizzas from Pizza Hut for free for my students. And I mean, enough to provide them for a meal. Maybe we do that once a month or twice a month or whatever. So it was a unique opportunity. So I took advantage of it.
Can funds be used for providing some type of food voucher, Rob? Nope. No. Okay, just checking. But a partnership or collaboration with a local restaurant, That sounds fabulous. I mean, what restaurant's not going to be willing to give some coupons for a free French fry or a free burger? I know Rallies down here does that all the time. So yeah, I think that's
especially franchises that are very education oriented. McDonald's gives scholarships. Pizza Hut is with literacy. So they're all about supporting those type of opportunities. So just have to look into your community a little bit.
It makes me think of the Dollar General store as well. They're so into literacy, and they, you know, partnering. They have the yellow sunglasses campaign. They have the chocolate bar campaign, then they have the cashier wraps where you can simply donate your change. And that money all goes to the grant program for the Dollar General Foundation. You know, they might, maybe they would accept a grant on some type of food vouchers as well. Or perhaps if you had an organization or a collaboration with a food pantry. I know that one of the things that Lauren's program also did was they have a clothing bank within their organization to give students the opportunity, once they get that job interview, to go pick an outfit. And there might be some other criteria. That was an idea that she was going to share with us actually whenever conference got canceled in 2020. And so we didn't get to hear that idea. But so ways that you could collaborate or do it yourself, obviously, since there's programs that do it. Lauren?
Jennifer?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, it's Lauren in person right now. We have so many clothes in our clothing bank right now that we have begun giving students tickets once they reach 12 hours, I believe. Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. We give them tickets and they can go. Honestly, right now they can pick out pretty much all they want. We give them a big bag. We've got accessories, shoes, purses, men's clothing, women's clothing, casual, business. So we kind of opened it up to be more than just the interview type outfit, because we got so many nice donations. So it's really been nice. And I'm sure that a few people have heard through word of mouth that we have that nice boutique. And I'm sure it draws a few in, because some have come in and been very interested and asked about it right away. So, and fortunately, we've got the room for that, but you guys would be surprised if you've got extra room or closet where you guys are located. I mean, getting some nice clothing donations. I mean, our clients, our students have loved it. So it's been wonderful.
Or you also could partner with another nonprofit that's in your area. So we have our YWCA has opened up. It was kind of inventive. They actually had an old pool that was just costing them too much to maintain. So they shut down the pool, but now they filled the pool and took the locker rooms and made a boutique so that people can come in and shop the boutique and get free clothing. And then the pool is larger furniture and stuff that if they needed any pieces like that. So partnering with them to be able to send your students over could be a way. That way, if you don't have the room, you have the option of somebody else that does have the room and partnering with them to do the same thing.
Oh, that's nice. And I do want to say, we don't call it a clothing bank. Those are the words that came out of my mouth. We do call it a boutique, because it does make it a clothing bank. You know, it's kind of demeaning in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, so our boutique, and we've got it all fancied up. The church people where we're located, they've come in and made it look really, really nice. So it is like a nice boutique that they get to go to. They reach 12 hours and then we let them go back, you know, every once in a while as they ask and as they need. And we let them pick clothing even for family members. I mean, that's how many nice clothes we've got. And there's been a couple staff members known to go and pick a couple things out as well. That's how nice our clothes are. So I think our students are really treated by what we're able to offer there.
Great.
We did do a blog on that. So if you want to go to the IAACE blog page, you can find a blog on that program and some pictures as well. So go check it out.
And then Lauren, is it the members of the congregation that are generally bringing the donations in? Since
we have had a lot of the church members, yes, because we asked for donations from them specifically, and then a lot of us, and just a word of mouth through our own staff families, you know, and we've got clothes of all sizes and shapes. So really the donations have come from many different sources, Rob, but yes, the church has been wonderful about donating. And it's not that it makes a difference, but it's a wealthier church. And so the clothes that we're getting in are really nice, and we love to be able to offer nicer clothing to, you know, to our clients. So it's been a good thing.
Yeah, I think I have a clothing issue myself that I could probably do my own boutique and and offer lots of free items.
Yeah, and if it was my boutique, I could have a variation of sizes as well.
Me too, Jen. Me too.
I think that brings up to the point that, more than anything, is collaboration is key. Whenever there is somebody else doing it well, don't try to do it too. Collaborate, join in, be a part of the solution by collaborating and working together.
Absolutely. Great ideas, though. I love all these.
Thanks for putting some pros and cons in the chat for Remind, Sheila. I appreciate that. So you guys can check that out. I will make this available via a recording afterwards. And I'll remind you at this time that if you want to save the chat, you can do so by, to the right of the file button, there's 3 little dots. You can hover over it and there'll be a more option. Then you'll click and they'll give you an option at the top that says save chat. And then whenever we exit, you'll be able to have everything in the chat in order to keep it and have all the ideas that we have came across. So collaborating is certainly key. We've talked about you could collaborate on food and coupons and any type of vouchers. And I think that all fits into the motivation, keeping students motivated by those collaborations, keeping them motivated by food and clothes and, you know, necessities. I mean, lots of us take advantage of the fact, or take it for advantage, that we have what we have. And we should always realize that sometimes people do without even food and necessities. So whenever it comes to little extra things that you can do in order just to make your classroom successful, or to make your students visiting your organization successful, I think of if you could collaborate with someone and get pens, paper, if you're meeting in person. Whenever it comes to technology, headsets, you know, that they could. So what collaborating partners could you get involved with your organizations to make those things easier to obtain and not be an actual expense for your program, but rather a benefit for your students participating? If you have a Zoom class, they get on 3 times and then you can send them a headset in the mail. And it can be one of these little things that they're not expensive. I mean, you can even get them at the dollar store, believe it or not. I have seen them at the dollar store. I've never bought one there to know how well it works, but I know this one works pretty well for me, and I didn't pay but like $4 or $5 for it. It's my travel one. Any other thoughts on little things that you could do for We've got about 10 minutes. So what's a burning question or a burning idea that you really need help with? I want you to go ahead and think about it a second, open up chat, write it in chat. What is something that you're like, oh gosh, if I could just find a solution for this, or if I could just find a solution for this issue, that barrier. whatever it comes to with, getting those students to keep coming back, just write anything that causing an issue for you, causing a problem, needing help with. It could be in relationship to a particular student. Just jot something in chat, and then we'll all hit enter whenever I count to 3, and they'll all go through a waterfall, and then we can talk about them for the last 5 or so minutes. Everybody got it in there?
Jen, I don't have a burning question, but Lauren and the rest of you, thank you. You just helped me figure out how to clean out my closet and do some work. I love you guys to death. My husband's gonna love you when I go home and tell him this.
Absolutely. And getting a collaborating partner could be awesome as well. But all right, anybody got anything in there? No, I'm seeing some no shakes. And then yeah, got it, something in there, go ahead and hit enter. That's all right. I know it's a Wednesday. You're on that hump day.
It's a Wednesday. It's 95 degrees outside with an index of 103.
Sometimes I think it's best to not, but when you think about the heat, what kind of voucher could you get from a local pool or something that would help them cool off? Could you write a local water park and get tickets for that, and then make it simple, but not so, it doesn't have to be they took the test and they earned it, but maybe it could. But could it be that everybody who puts in 12 hours between this date and this date gets entered into to win? And ours locally down here would be Holiday World. Holiday World does take a request for donations. So anything that you could utilize your nonprofit 501c3 to request a donation for, and then you can utilize that as an incentive to get your students to make the effort, show up for class, do their part to their own success program.
Jen, I like that idea, but that voucher would have to say Saturday or Sunday, because I wouldn't want them on my class time to be at the pool and say, but you gave it to me because
Okay, well, perhaps then that could also be an incentive. What if whenever you had something like that, then if 100% of the class got an entry, then we'll take a Friday off. How many times have you used that as an employer? I know I had whenever I worked for a corporation, we used to be able to earn comp time by different things that we did. Let me tell you, I was motivated to earn that comp time. So what if you did something for your students in order to earn some comp time? If everybody participates in this, if everybody makes a commitment, then we'll take a day off. We'll take a classroom day off. Maybe you would have to ask them to do some homework or something in replace, but what's one day? It's your birthday. You could utilize it as your birthday. They could get a voucher not to have to do anything on the birthday classroom related. They could take their birthday off.
Most of them do that anyway. The thing is that like when we get a snow day, and we don't even get snow days anymore, but last year, even when we had a snow day, supposedly, no one came online. They think Thursday is Friday. My class doesn't meet on Friday. We meet Monday through Thursday, but they think Thursday is Friday, so they don't come Thursday. I don't think I would want to give them, I don't think I want to give them an excuse not to come to class. Well, they have enough of those all by themselves. They don't need any help. at all.
So an
They
ideal
just,
on that, instead of going Monday through Thursday, what if you tell them we're going to go back through Monday through Friday classes, and then they won't show up on Friday? Then you still have the day off and they still get their 4 days in.
yeah, I like my Monday through Thursday schedule. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm saying they're going to not show up anyway.
Well, yeah, but there'll be that one that will, and then they'll be mad that I wasn't there. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I have to scoot.
That I put a link in at the top.
Did I miss something?
It was called Faculty Focus. There's a big link. It's really near the top, but it's really good. You might look at it. It's a lot of the stuff we talked about already. I was looking up what do other people think, and I thought it was. I think we use a lot of these things. I think one of the big one is that very first impression. You know, either calling them or just being very welcoming, because most of our students, the reason they go to the vet with their sister's brother's son-in-law's dog is because they're connected to people more than they're connected to prestige of getting their high school equivalency. So we need to get them connected to us. And so getting them to feel welcome and feel positive and feel successful on their very first day, to me, is one of the keys truly to getting people to have a good time. And then the other things, keeping them closely monitored, using social media if you can, clear feedback so they know what to expect and what they've done and what they need, texting or have a way to communicate with them. Texting works for most students. That's why I'm going to try Google Voice. I just picked a phone number. Inspiring them. I saw someone put in their chat that they sent inspirational stuff through with their Remind. I think that's a great idea.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Then they have a retention center, which we don't have unless somebody there uses Blackboard, but and then addressing at-risk students early. Those are so 7 of the 8 tips work really well with adult ed as well as college. So I thought that was a pretty good little list running down. So, and we talked a lot about those on our own. So
that is a great article. So I'll reiterate that you can go ahead and right click that, copy and paste that, and pop it in another window right now, or you can save the file with all the chat. Lauren, did you have something? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I do. I have something that may sound harsh, but I think is important as a director. What Sheila said is that, we've got to get them connected with us. And part of that is I kind of pride myself on, we've got a staff that the students keep coming back. I mean, no matter what our locations are, we have students who come back and visit us because of our kind, friendly demeanor. I have made sure that my staff is friendly and first and foremost, smiling, kind, welcoming. And you know what? I've kind of gotten rid of the ones who aren't. I mean, sometimes it's worked out. I mean, not for that exact reason, but I mean, if there's somebody who was in a classroom that had, that wasn't friendly, I mean, maybe I changed their location or whatever, or but I feel like we've got a really, really friendly staff. And it's about, like, I equate it to going to a doctor's office or anywhere you go where there's a front desk person. We've all been there. We've gone into ones where you'll have someone who won't say anything to you and you feel like, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I feel terrible and not special whenever whenever I walk in somewhere and a front desk person won't speak to me or doesn't look up or is unkind. And so the first thing you've got to have that kind, friendly front desk person, and that includes the teachers, but especially your first point of contact. That first point of contact better be somebody who is friendly, kind, warm, welcoming, and treats people special, because it is that important to them coming back.
Absolutely.
I kind of rambled, but I really feel strong. I feel strongly about that. Sometimes it's not about what we do. Sometimes you've got to look at your staff and go, wait a minute, this person isn't cutting the mustard. So sorry to say it, but it's true.
It boils down to building relationships, making the connections, seeing other perspectives, and helping them take on the challenge to create their own success, monitor their own success. And I think you guys have all summarized it really well. The articles and all the great thoughts are in chat. So it is 1 o'clock exactly. And so in respect of everyone's time, we're going to go ahead and end this conversation today, but it doesn't have to end totally. If you have thoughts or you would like to actually provide a little bit more on anything that we've talked about, I would love and welcome any articles for future blogs and or the newsletter. So go ahead and drop me an email at director@IAACE and we can get you on the schedule. So thanks so much for your time, everybody, and happy Christmas in July.
Thanks, Jen. Be
Thanks,
safe,
Jen.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Great ideas.
Bye.